ghost company, the employees who never leave. When I first joined a major financial firm right out of college, I was filled with dreams. The gleaming skyscraper, talented colleagues, and endless possibilities for growth. Little did I know about the dark side hidden behind that shiny facade. In the beginning, everything was new and exciting. I didn't mind working overtime, pouring my heart into the job. The seniors advised, "You need to be tough to make it in this company." At the time, I thought they were just encouraging hard work. But as time passed, I began to understand the true meaning behind those words. The first incident happened a month after I started. I was working late, alone, trying to meet a crucial project deadline. The office was eerily quiet, with only the fluorescent lights illuminating my workspace. The clock had already struck 11 p.m. Suddenly, I heard the sound of typing from the next office. "Mike, you working late too?" I called out. "Yeah, gotta meet this deadline." Mike's voice replied. I felt relieved. Mike's office was on the way to the exit, so knowing I wasn't alone was comforting. I refocused on my work, losing track of time. As the hours ticked by, I heard sounds of shuffling papers, phone calls, and even muttering from the next room. These sounds reassured me as I continued working. I thought about bringing Mike a coffee but decided not to disturb his concentration. At 2 a.m., I finally finished and packed up. Exhausted but relieved to have completed the project, I called out, "Mike, I'm heading out." "You coming?" There was no response. Puzzled, I went to Mike's office. The door was closed, and the lights were off. "Mike?" I called again, but still no answer. With an uneasy feeling, I slowly opened the door. A chill ran down my spine. The office was dark and empty. There was no sign of recent use. Mike's desk was tidy, and his computer was off. It looked like no one had been there at all. Confusion and fear washed over me. What were those sounds I'd been hearing? Hallucinations? Or something else? With trembling hands, I called Mike. "Hello?" A groggy voice answered. "Mike, were you just at the office?" "What?" "No, I've been sleeping at home." "What are you talking about?" Mike replied, sounding irritated. I hung up and stood there, dumbfounded. I didn't know how to process what I'd just experienced. Finally, succumbing to exhaustion, I headed home, but anxiety plagued me all night. After this incident, I felt uneasy every time I worked late. But the work continued, and overtime didn't decrease. If anything, it seemed to increase. My colleagues appeared to accept this overtime culture as normal. "That's just how it is in this industry," I often heard. The second incident occurred 3 months into the job. I had been working late for days, preparing for an important presentation. Exhausted, I lay down on the break room sofa for a quick nap. I intended to rest briefly but fell into a deep sleep. I'm not sure how much time passed, but I woke to someone tapping my shoulder. I opened my eyes to see a man in his late 50s standing there. He was wearing a neat suit, but it looked oddly outdated. His eyes were sharp, yet tired. "Wake up. It's time for the meeting," he said. Startled, I checked the time. It was 7 a.m. I jumped up, saying, "I'm sorry, I'll be right there." The man nodded and left the break room. I hurriedly freshened up and rushed to the office. But when I arrived, no one was there. Confused, I checked the meeting rooms, but they were all empty. When my team leader arrived, I asked, "Was there a meeting scheduled for this morning?" He looked puzzled. "No, there's no meeting today." "Why?" I explained what had happened in the break room. My team leader's expression turned grim. "Did this man wear a gray suit with a red tie?" "Yes, he did." "How did you know?" My team leader sighed. "That man, he was a department head here 20 years ago. He worked himself to death. Since then, there have been stories of employees seeing him." A chill ran through my body. My team leader continued, "He was a workaholic. Always the first to arrive and the last to leave. In the end, that's what." After hearing this, I understood the tiredness I saw in the man's eyes. From that day on, I never slept on the break room sofa again. The third incident was even stranger. 6 months into the job, I was leaving late after overtime work. In the elevator, it stopped at the 15th floor, and a woman entered. She appeared to be in her late 20s, dressed in an 80s style outfit. Her hairstyle was also from that era. "Good evening," she smiled and greeted me. "Good evening," I replied. After a moment, she asked, "Are there still many people working upstairs?" It was an odd question, but I was too tired to think much of it. "No, almost everyone has gone home," I answered. Her expression suddenly contorted. "Oh," she murmured. "Then I guess I can't leave yet." Suddenly, the elevator shook violently. Startled, I looked around, but the woman had vanished. I huddled in the corner, terrified, until I reached the ground floor. After this incident, I started researching the company's history. I discovered some shocking facts. Our building was originally constructed in the 1920s. It underwent major renovations in the 80s to become what it is now, but before that, numerous incidents had occurred here. The fourth incident happened a year into my job. Late one night, while working alone, the entire office was suddenly filled with the smell of cigarette smoke. This was strange because our building was strictly non-smoking. At first, I thought someone might be secretly smoking, but the smell was too strong. As I searched for the source, I found myself in front of an old conference room. Smoke was seeping through the door cracks. What was odd was that this room had been used as a storage space for years. Standing at the door, I could hear multiple people talking inside. Wondering who could be having a meeting so late, I carefully opened the door. But the room was dark and empty. Yet, as soon as I closed the door, I heard the voices again. I couldn't make sense of it. The next day, I asked about that conference room. I was told it was where crucial decisions were made in the 1950s. Apparently, the executives had an all-night meeting there before a contract that would determine the company's fate. The company grew significantly as a result, but employee workloads also increased dramatically. The fifth incident was the most shocking. 2 years into my job, I was working in the old document storage room. I was organizing old files to transfer them to a new digital system. It was late, and I was alone. Suddenly, the lights flickered and went out. As I reached for my phone to use as a flashlight, a cold hand gripped my shoulder. "Help me." It was a woman's voice. Trembling, but somehow desperate. As I slowly turned around, the hand vanished. but I started hearing the sound of papers being frantically shuffled around me. It was as if someone was urgently searching for something. Terrified and about to flee, I noticed a document. It was from the early 80s, detailing some unethical practices of the company. But when I tried to look at it again, it had disappeared. As these experiences accumulated, my perspective on the company began to change. I started seeing the dark sides hidden behind the glamorous exterior and high salaries. I became afraid of staying in the office every night. In my 3rd year, I finally decided to quit. Many couldn't understand my decision, but I couldn't bear to step into that building anymore. Even now, when I pass by the office building late at night, I get chills seeing the lit windows. I wonder if anyone inside is experiencing what I did. Are they seeing or hearing inexplicable things too? I hope no one has to go through that. This experience completely changed my life. Now, I head home as soon as the sun sets. I don't even apply to companies that require overtime. The thought of staying in an office at night terrifies me. Sometimes when I talk to my old colleagues and hear they're still working at that company, I worry. But I know if I told them about my experiences, they'd think I was crazy. So I just tell them, be careful not to burn out. Maybe all those experiences were hallucinations caused by overwork. But sometimes, I still dream of that building. The office windows lit up late at night, and the shadows of people working inside. Are they all really living people?